Hola, a continuación vas a poder escuchar un podcast o una grabación de vídeo, si estás con formato de vídeo, de una conferencia que impartí con el título Tiempos compartibles, cómo optimizar el aprendizaje de un idioma cuando disponemos de poco tiempo. Estas charlas las impartí en inglés en dos ocasiones diferentes, en 2 días distintos, y fueron posibles gracias a la decana en funciones de la Facultad de Filología de la Universidad de Las Palmas de Gran Canaria, la doctora Dolores Fernández Martínez. Los tiempos compartibles son una parte muy importante en el programa Más idiomas, más vidas. En concreto en todo lo que tiene que ver con la gestión del tiempo, ¿no? Uno de nuestros recursos más importantes. Pues gracias a la adecuada gestión de este concepto, ¿no? De lo que yo llamo tiempos compartibles, podemos sacar, pues, yo calculo una estimación entre media hora y 2 horas extras cada día, ¿no? de tiempo, que no es poco, ¿no? Para seguir mejorando el idioma que estamos aprendiendo, ¿no? Y esto es lo que vamos a ver a continuación en la conferencia. Espero que les resulte de interés y, bueno, cualquier comentario que quieran realizar al respecto, tienen la dirección en ella del correo electrónico, me lo pueden enviar y encantado les responderé. Espero que lo disfruten y hasta pronto. Un saludo.
Good morning, everybody, to this conference with the title Tiempos compartibles, Shareable Times, How to Learn a Language When You Have No Enough Time. First of all, I'm going to do a very short introduction about myself. My name is Manuel Hernández. I study telecommunication engineering, and I have been working for the last 20 years, maybe longer, with my own company, doing different kind of projects on telecommunication and mobile communication. I'm the author of the book Más idiomas, más vidas, and also the creator of the program with the same name. I've been living in many different countries and working in many different countries, and I got the chance to learn French, to learn English and German, and I speak at the moment relatively fluent these languages, and right now I'm studying Russian and also a little bit of Italian and Esperanto. I also have to learn Catalan when I was at the university, but to be honest, I don't speak the language since then. Just to continue talking about myself, I have to say, first of all, that I'm not a linguist, I'm not an expert on languages, I'm not a researcher on this kind of topics. So this is important because all the things that I'm going to talk and to say in this conference, it's just about my own experience and also the experience of some other polyglots. And my intention is just to be to give you some hints and some tips in order to improve your language possibilities, mainly focusing on how to use the time. That it's usually something crucial in order to learn a language. I was studying at the university this career, the telecommunication engineering, for more than 7 years. So you can imagine how many things I have to learn at the time. There was 2 things that I learned by myself. First, the first thing it was just typing with an old machine at that time, and now of course it's very something very useful with just a keyboard of a computer. And that was something that I didn't learn, as I said before, at the university. I learned it by myself, and it was a very helpful thing. And the other second thing that has to do, obviously, with this conference, that it's oriented for Spanish people who want to learn English, it was, learning this language. Once again, it was something that I learned by myself, not at the university. And it was extremely helpful, not only in my professional life, but also in my private life. As I said at the beginning in the introduction, I wrote 2 or 3 years ago this book, Más idiomas, más vidas, la guía definitiva para aprender idiomas. And it was, what I tried to do with this book is just not only to give motivation for the people who want to learn a language, but also to give practical hints to do it. Most of them are based on technology. That is my, let's say, speciality, where I have been working for the last 20-25 years. If you want to get a book, you just have to send me an email to this email address, and I will send you the book without any problem. I also create, not too long ago, the program with the same name, Más idiomas, más vidas. And you can see the content, an introduction video, also in my website. You have written down here. And it's, okay, I thought not so many people are going to read the book. It's more than 400 pages. So why not to do that in video, to help people just to get all this knowledge? And that's why I create this program with more than 15 hours to help people to learn languages like a polyglot. This is the structure of the method, just to give you a first, just a very simple idea of the whole program. But I want to tell you an anecdote first. I remember many years ago, my parents bought us, my brothers and me, a collection of books about how to learn English for the BBC. And it was with these old cassettes. I don't know if you remember what it was, this technology. And it was also a book just for idioms. And I used this book a lot, and I learned a lot of idioms. And I think that one of the first that I learned, it was when in Rome, do as the Romans do. Allá donde fueres, haz lo que vieres. So, which is the best way to learn a language? Just if you do it like the polyglots, the people who have been through this process more than one time. This is just the aim of this program. And I'm not using my own experience like a polyglot, but also the experience of many other people through more than 80 books that I read before written my book and afterwards developing this program. The program has a first part that is to show people what it really means to learn a language and which things I'm going to get after doing that. Because most of the people, okay, they think if I start to learn English, I can improve my professional career. I will get a better job. I will have higher incomes. Okay, that's true. But it's absolutely not the only thing that you will get when you learn language. So I want just to give the whole picture and just to also show the whole process. What does it mean really to learn a language? From a very basic skills and knowledge to really master the language. Then the essential factors are, let's say, the psychological factors that had to do with learning a language, and are very, very important. Then the foundations of this language, let's say, which are the basis and more important things in order to improve my learning skills, how to learn a foreign language. Then the method itself, with different strategies and tactics and technologies and tools and contents to do it in different methods, from level A, level B, and finally level C. This method, it's useful for everybody who wants to learn a language. It doesn't matter if you already have the experience, if you are just starting or in the middle of advanced level. It doesn't matter the language that you want to learn. It's something, let's say, universal, that it will be helpful for everybody. It doesn't matter how old are you or your, let's say, level of education. It will be always helpful. I also have to say, there is any universal method in the sense that it depends on many factors. It depends on your psychological features, your level of different languages, and so on and so forth. It depends on the place where you are, what's its all the things around you. It depends on your mother tongue. It depends on the languages that you want to learn. But there are things that you always can know and put into practice. And these things always will be helpful. Then, of course, you have to adapt to your own situation, to your own profile. And that's the information, the things that you're going to learn with this program. And finally, the strategic plan, where you will develop kind of a roadmap to say, okay, I'm here, but I want to get here in this period of time. How can I get it? How can I really improve improve this process? If you want to know more about the program, you can just enter in my podcast. You can listen to them, for instance, in Spotify, but also in some other platforms. And not too long ago, I put a podcast talking about that, about the presentation of the program in more details. Okay, let's get into the topic. What does it mean really to learn a language? I mean, to learn a language, it's a huge effort for years. And everybody have three own resources to do it. Time, your own effort and energy, and money. Now we're going to talk in this conference just about the topic of time. But as I would say many times during this conference, all these three factors are completely interconnected. So we will see that when you improve one, in this case time, you will also improve the other two. That's something very, very important. Because at the end, everybody has 24 hours a day. That's a fact. What we do with this time, it's what makes the difference. So at the end, you can decide, okay, I'm just going to study or to talk or to learn English for 15 minutes a day or just 3 hours a day. It's up to you. It's your own decision. But always you will have the possibility to use 24 hours a day. That's like that. There is any other possibility. I'm going to talk about another interesting thing, that it's the productive lifetime. When you in life we have this 24 hours and then we decide what to do with this time. You can use it just to relax, to work, to be with your family, to sleep, to practice sport, and so on and so forth. What I mean with productive lifetime? Productive lifetime for me, it's the time that you use to learn something. Just that. When you are, for instance, studying at the university, when you are, for instance, reading a book, when you are listening to a podcast or watching a documentary, when you are, of course, learning a language. So the more productive lifetime that you invest in your life, the better person you will become. That's a fact. And that's why, for me, this time it's so important. And once again, when you study a new language, you are increasing your productive lifetime. That is what is so important. So let's go on. Not too long ago, I interviewed a friend of mine, Simon Ager. He is the creator of omniglot.com. It's a very interesting website where you can get a lot of information about languages. And he has a part of this website with a lot of podcasts. And before the interview, I was listening to some of them, and there was one that was very interesting for me. It was the name of the podcast was Giving Up. In this podcast, Simon was saying that there were three main reasons why most of the people just stop learning a language. The first point was the loss of interest. The second point was no time. And the third one is distraction, something very common in our society because we have plenty of possibilities. Getting distracted. I think it's very precise, and I must say that I agree with him. Let's focus once again in time, and we will see at the end of the conference that maybe with this information that I'm going to give you, with these shareable times and shareable activities that we will see very soon, maybe time, it will be no more excuse learning in order to learn a language. So before giving the definition of what's a shareable time for me, I will just try to start with the opposite. What is no shareable times? Okay, the no shareable times are the time that you use when you're doing something and then you cannot do anything else at the same time. For instance, sometimes when you are studying, not always, but sometimes you need to be completely focused on what are you studying. When you are in a meeting, you have to be also very concentrated on the meeting, on the working time. Once again, not always, but most of the time when you are working, you need to be completely focused on the things that you are doing. The time that you spend with some friends or the family, sometimes it's also no shareable times or just leisure time. For instance, when you're playing chess, you need to be absolutely focused on the game. If not, probably you will lose very quickly. So, after seeing these examples of what are no shareable times, let's get into the topic about what are the shareable times. Okay, Let's say some examples of shareable times, and we will understand much better what's that for. For instance, shareable time it could be when I wake up or when I go to bed. Also, shareable time will be when I watch TV or when I'm in transport. How many hours we don't spend? We spend just commuting from one place to another. During the week when we are working, and even the weekend, by bus, by train, using the underground, by airplane, we spend hours every week, every month. This is also part of the shareable times. Time in the bathroom, when we are doing our daily grooming, it's another. Sometimes it depends on the people. Some people need just maybe 5-10 minutes a day. Some other people maybe need much more, 1-2 hours. That's very personal, but also it's a lot of time, and it's a time that we use every single day, probably. Sports can be also shareable times. Not always, but for instance, if we are just running or just walking, we're just training at the gym, probably we can do some other things that we will see later on. So this is 5 different examples of shareable times, but they are not the only one. We can continue with other examples of shareable times. I remember when I was living in Germany, I did a huge effort to try to find people to talk with. And it was not easy, I must confess, for German people. Okay, this kind of socialized activities are not so common, let's say. So for me, it was not easy to put into practice my German and to try to keep conversation with native speakers. But, most of the time I have to spend time eating alone. That was not very pleasant. It's obvious that it's nicer when you may share your lunch, your dinner, your breakfast with someone else. But many times at the time it was not my situation. So what I did something else when I was eating alone. I will explain later. So that was a very interesting shareable time. And I'm not saying that it's the best thing to eat alone, once again, absolutely not, but sometimes you have to do it. So why not? We can kill 2 birds with one stone, doing something else. Waiting time, we spend a lot of time in our life waiting for the bus, waiting for some friends, waiting to enter in a meeting, waiting before the beginning of a class, and so on and so forth. If you just try to analyze the time that we spend, maybe it will be more than a half an hour, 1 hour, even every single day. We also may use these shareable times when we are just watching or hearing news during the day. That's something that most of the people used to do. It could be a good habit, but I'm not going to enter into this topic. That's something also very personal. But we spend also some time during the day doing that. Another thing that I really loved. Some polyglots said that it's not the best way to improve your language, your foreign language, the language that you are learning. But for me, it's absolutely crucial. All of the people think, and we spend a lot of time with a lot of thoughts. We thought about the past, we're thinking about the future. We are all the time thinking about many different things, about our life, our private life, about projects, about problems, work, and so on and so forth. And we always do that in our own mother tongue. It's impossible to think in no language at all. We think always in a language. So if you're able to switch from your mother tongue to the tongue that you are learning, this will be absolutely amazing, and you will gain a lot of time to improve this language. And this is a shareable time. Why? Because you're going to do the same. I mean, you're always thinking. It doesn't matter if you don't want to do it in this foreign language and you continue to do it with your mother tongue. At the end, at the end of the day, it will be the same. So why not? Why not to do that? Why not to switch? At the beginning, maybe you can start just with very simple words, just with vocabulary. You just watch around you and you say, okay, that's a wall, that's a table, that's a water, that's a pencil, and then you continue with shorter sentences. And finally, you can able to keep a conversation with yourself about everything. So our thoughts and how to use this shareable time, it's also very, very important. Housework, cleaning the table, washing dishes, or just tidying your room. We also spend a lot of time doing our housework. This is also a very, very good moment to do something else, to share this time with some other activities that we will see later on. Some other shareable times, the time that you may spend with friends. Okay, maybe if you go out with friends who are like you, Spanish people, obviously it won't be very easy to talk in English. But if you make the effort and you meet new friends, and these friends are native speakers of the English language, then you are having a lot of fun. You are socializing. You're having a nice, wonderful time. But at the same time, you're speaking in this language. That's absolutely wonderful. The time with the family. Not too long ago, I met a friend of mine. He studied at the university. First of all, he was studying at the German school for more than 12 years. Then he went to Germany. He studied at the university in Germany, his degree, and then he did his PhD also in Germany. So he's almost bilingual. His daughter have been studying in an English school for the last 10 years. And I told him, okay, you speak German perfectly. Why don't you try to practice English with your daughter? It's a wonderful moment because for her it's a good practice, and for you, you can improve much more your English. That it's very useful for him in his job, and it's a compliment for his German. So this is just an example about how you can use shareable times also with your family if it's possible. I mean, it depends on the situation, on every case, personal case, but you have to think about that. New hobbies. Okay, maybe right now we are doing things that it's not possible to practice the language. But maybe if we think we can just start to entering in a group of people that we can meet through internet, for instance, just to learn how to cook and try to do that in this language, in the English language. It will be just an example about how to get new hobbies, like the same example that we were talking about before about new friends. And do something in order to practice your language skills in English. Visiting a museum or some other place. I remember the first 3 months that I was living in Berlin, and it was the beginning of my learning process in real life with the German language. I went to school just for 3 months maximum. And I remember once they used to do a lot of activities out of the classroom, and once the teacher organized a visit to a museum. That was, I remember, it was exactly in front of the Hauptbahnhof in Berlin. It's a very beautiful building, and also the building of the museum. And when I arrived, I was the only person with her. So at the beginning I was a little bit scared. I thought, wow, what I'm going to do. My spoken German is not really very good. What I'm going to do? I once again killed 2 birds with 1 stone, because I had a very good time visiting the museum, and at the same time I tried all the couple of hours that we were inside to speak with her in German. For me, it was a wonderful experience, and I learned a lot I learned a lot of German, and also with the visit itself. I'm not so sure if it was so nice for her to talk with me at that time, because once again, I couldn't speak very fluently, and it was not so easy, the communication, but I tried. And once again, I had a wonderful time. This is another example about shareable times. Finally, leisure time and relax. We can also use a lot of our time just to relax, also to improve our language skills, like we will see later. So these are more than 15 examples where we can use shareable times. We can just live exactly the same, using the same, organization through the day, without almost changing anything, and use some part of the day where we can, with this part of the days, there will be shareable times, where we can use to do something else. Why it's so important, these shareable times? First of all, because you don't have to change anything in your habits. You will continue doing the same. That's why for me, this strategy, it's crucial, it's very important. But at the same time also because you can optimize one of your own 3 resources, that is time. But as I said before, when you optimize time, you are also optimizing your effort, and probably also you will save a lot of money. That's why it's so important to get these habits and to learn how to use these shareable times. The advantages are a lot of them. We can improve our motivation through this new habit of using shareable times. Our results will be much better. The immersion will be also much better. I will talk a little bit, just a very short thing about immersion, another crucial aspect in learning languages. As a matter of fact, it's one of the foundations in my program. Why you will never ever will stop learning languages. So that has to do with the second point, with the podcast of my friend Simon Ager, about why people are giving up learning a new language. And we eliminate one of the most common obstacles. It's at the end for me, it's time. It's sometimes an excuse, not a real obstacle. Okay, let's continue. I have talked about shareable times, and now I'm going to talk about what we can do in these shareable times. It's what I call the shareable activities. As I said before, a shareable time is a time that we can share doing something else. What else? Well, let's see. When we learn a language, we have to practice 5 different competences. We need to talk, we need to read, we need to listen, to study, and to write. The great news is that you can put into practice all of them using shareable activities, using shareable times. What does it mean? That means that you can learn a language just through shareable times. It's amazing. I don't want to say, of course not, that this will be the only way to learn a language. Obviously not. In the program, you will see many other different possibilities to increase to optimize, to increase the time that you learn and to optimize your immersion. Okay, but that it's a very powerful strategy, so powerful that just by itself helps you to learn a language, putting into practices once again all the things, all the competences that you need to talk, to read, to listen, to study, and to write. That's why, once again, it's so important to get the habit of using your shareable times. So, once again, I would like just for you to take that like a picture in your mind as at least one of the takeaways of this conference. We can learn a language, put into practice all the competences with just using shareable times. For me, that's absolutely amazing. Let's try competence by competence to see what kind of activities we can put into practice. In this case, let's talk about conversation. Okay, you can during these shareable times just to talk with yourself. As I said before, and that's a habit that you need to create. You can switch from having all these talks all along the day, all along the week, all along your life in your mother tongue into, in this case, if you're learning English, into English. This will give you a lot of time every single day of your life to improve your language, your English. Try to find, usually through internet, new friends, and these people, if they are native speakers, much better. You will meet very interesting people. Probably you will discover many different topics to talk about, and you will do it in English. Using this leisure time, like a shareable time, with this shareable activity. Talk with family members, as I said before, with my friend, with his daughter. If you got a chance and you can put into practice the language, even if that person in your family, probably will be the case, it's not a native speaker, don't worry. At the end, everything, it's just another plus in your process. And the more plus you put, the better the results. So don't be afraid of just talking with someone who is not native. And if you can do it in your family, go ahead. You can also do it with some friends. Maybe you have friends who speaks very good English, and you can say, okay, why not? We are going to sit down in a bar to have, or in the cafeteria, to have a coffee and talk for a while in this language. It will be absolutely amazing. It will be a nice experience for both of you. Another of the foundations, another of the crucial things that you can do to learn language is tandems. That's an art. But that's not the point now. It's now what I just want to say is that with using tandems, you can improve your conversation. You can talk more and more in English with this native speaker, and you can do it as a shareable time. As first in English, if you, for instance, here in the island, one day you want to go to the beach and you want to ask to your family, ¿Qué tiempo hace? What's the weather like? You can first ask this question in your mind. How can I say that in English? Okay, it's what's the weather like? If you don't know, you can just look it up in the internet and then you can ask in Spanish. I know that you are not going to do that all the time. Why? Because if not, you can keep a fluent conversation, and sometimes it's just not possible. I live that every single day with my wife when I'm trying to speak in Russian. But sometimes we can do it. We can just say, okay, before asking or before saying something in Spanish to some Spanish speaker, native speaker, I can just try to translate that in my mind into English. That's a wonderful practice, and that's also a lot of shareable times that we will have to during the day. And it's also a habit. It's not something that you say, okay, I wanted to do it, and from now on I'm going to do it for the rest of my life. No, you need to put it into practice. You need a little bit of time, a little bit of patience. Like old habits, a little by little, you turn something that at the beginning wasn't natural, like something completely natural, and you do it without any effort, and you start to put it into practice also your language with this strategy. Okay, let's continue with more shareable activities. In this case, the competence to read. Today we have a lot of possibilities using a lot of technologies to read almost everywhere. When we were talking about shareable times, for instance, waiting for the bus, waiting for some friends, waiting to enter in the classroom, when you are just inside the airplane, when you are flying, or when you are in transportation, commuting from one place to the other, you can take your tablet, your mobile phone, even your computer, and you can read a lot of information. You can read ebooks, you can read PDF, you can download from the internet documents, articles, newspapers. So you have a lot of possibility to do it. I remember when I was living in Berlin, and I used to commute from one place to the other. So matter of fact, Berlin is a very curious city because it has 3 centers. It has Adenauerplatz, Potsdamer Platz, and Alexanderplatz. I was living in Adenauerplatz and I had to commute till Alexanderplatz. So it was more or less 1 hour using U-Bahn and S-Bahn, using the undergrounds and trains. And I read a lot. As we will see later, I also study a lot of German, mainly vocabulary, but I read a lot during this time. So I used this shareable times of, in this case, transportation, and I used to read all different things in German. And not only in my mobile phone at that time, but also all the signs that I have seen around, inside the urban or urban, and also outside. So I learned a lot. Doing something that for me, it was not an extra time. Because in any case, I have to move from one place to the other. And it was, as I said before, 1 hour to get to my working place and another hour to return. So to read, we can use most of the time the technology, but not always. We can just print something in paper and also read it, just to buy a book, good book. We can, put into practice the reading, like through all these different shareable activities, and just use all these shareable times. To listening comprehension, something crucial to learn language. Also, we have a lot of different shareable activities to do it. We made listened podcasts, videos, and YouTube and internet, movies, audiobooks. We made just dial different radios all around the world, in different places, in the UK, in London, in San Francisco, in other places of California, New York, different accents. We may listen news in English everywhere. We also may watch different documentaries or just watch different debates or reports about, you cannot imagine how many contents for free we have in internet. That's another very important point. When I talk at the beginning about the 3 resources of our own that we have to learn language, I talk about time. This is the point today in this conference, about our effort, and about money. In my program, I insist and I show you how it's possible nowadays, mainly through the technology, to learn a language completely for free. So, all these contents that I'm talking about right now, about the different shareable activities that we can implement to listen in something in English. We have almost, that you can imagine, about all different kind of topics, all different kind of people, expert, no expert, YouTubers, influencers, journalists, writers, politicians, whatever you can imagine, tech talks. It's huge, the amount of possibilities that we have to get all different kind of contents about all different kind of things that we may be interested in. So this is absolutely amazing, and once again for free, and just no using extra time, because it's a shareable activity that we do in different shareable times. We continue to study. As I said before, when I was commuting in Germany, I learned a lot of vocabulary using different apps and just Word documents that I downloaded in my mobile phone in order to learn new vocabulary. I was always reading around and looking up new vocabulary using an online dictionary. And nowadays I'm also using Pons to learn German. It's a very good dictionary in my opinion. So I learned a lot of vocabulary, a lot of grammar, a lot of new expressions at the time in German. You can do the same with the English language. But you can study about the culture, about the history, about all the topics that you can imagine, technology, literature, science, all different kind of topics that you are interested in. You can just focus on that and study the language using this content. It's true that at the beginning, when you are in an A level, the contents are not so crucial. But when you are in an intermediate or advanced level B or level C, the contents are very important. Why? Because you need to get the best content for you in order to be always motivated. That is also something very, very important. So, once again, we can study using our shareable times with these different shareable activities. For instance, just sit down in the bus or in a taxi even, and just study a little bit of vocabulary and put it into practice, these words, and turn them maybe in passive vocabulary to active vocabulary. Sorry, this is the only the second slide that is in Spanish. I didn't want to translate it. It's part of my program, and it's one of the videos when I talk about how to manage our time in order to get the best about this resource, crucial resource, and to improve much better our learning process. And I just wanted to compare. In my program, I'm a little bit more radical, and I talk about bad management of time. I don't want to say that it's bad. Let's say that's more standard. But it's just a comparison between something that it can be a very good example about how to use shareable times. It's a good way to manage your time. And let's say what most of the time, most of the people just do. First of all, just let's start with how you start a day. Okay, you can just decide it. It's my case. Wake up every day, even weekends at 5, and you can start it with podcasts and listen to. In my case now, I'm listening to a lot of Russian, sometimes also a little bit of German. For the time that you are in the toilet, or the time you are even having breakfast. Okay, maybe let's say half an hour average every day. Okay, in a normal standard way of living, you just wake up at 8, and you just listen to. I wrote bad news because most of the time it's just unfortunately bad news, and you can just do your toilet and just have breakfast. Then this is not a shareable time. It's just I put it to study a couple of hours. If you wake up very soon, that's what I do. I'm very my brain works very good at the beginning at the beginning of the day. So I take a couple of hours just to study. But once again, that's not a shareable time because I'm completely focused in studying. But that was just an example. If we go to the other side, okay, you don't study any time because you woke up at 8, so you don't have this 2 hours. You need to go to work. Then that was one of the shareable activities that I talked before. It says when you are talking with yourself, maybe during the day I can do it in right now. I try to do it in Russian. Let's say this is just to put a number, 45 minutes a day on average. On the other side, nothing. You just continue with a normal run, mental run. That's not English. Run mental in Spanish. Just in Spanish, so no practice at all. Okay, we continue. You need to move every single day from your home to your working place, and when you are commuting, maybe you can use this time to, for instance, listen to some podcasts or to listen to some contents. Let's say 1 hour. That depends. You can do it maybe using public transportation, or just by car with your own car. But in any case, you can also have your podcast downloaded in your car, or use your mobile phone to listen to this content, or not to do it. But you are just normally driving, listening to some music, for instance. Okay. Then there are some moments during the day when you're waiting to enter in a class, when you are just doing a break in your working routine, that you can try to learn language, and let's say on average another half an hour during the day, or not to do it. You just prefer to talk with your colleagues and to have a coffee and just to enjoy this relaxing time without any problem. Another possibility during the day is to, if you decide to go to the gym, or if you are just jogging, you can also use your headphones with your mobile phone and listen to this language, let's say 1 hour a day, or just to lie on the sofa, just relaxing and not doing anything special. And finally, if you want to watch TV, let's say for another hour every day, instead of watching public TV, just in your mother tongue language, and maybe sometimes not very interesting contents. At the end of the day, we have in shareable times more than 4 hours 45 minutes in comparison with nothing on the other side. Okay, I'm not expecting to have almost 5 hours a day, and we have seen it's 5 hours a day using, once again, shareable times, not an extra time like the time between 5 6:30 and 7:30. That is not the shareable time. You need it just to focus on studying. No, it's just doing something else at the same time that you normally do every single day. And once again, we are talking about almost 5 hours a day. How can you say that you have no time to learn a language? No way. Okay, let's continue. To be honest, I have to say that I learned how to say garbanzo in English when I was preparing this conference, chickpea. In any case, for me, this is a very simple and graphic example about what means an immersion. When you want to learn a language, you need to immerse, to dip your mind, let's say, like a simile, in this case, to dip it into the water. It's like what happened with chickpeas when you do that before cooking them. When you do that, after some hours, the chickpeas that at the beginning were very hard, they start to become softer and softer. It's something similar that happened when you at the beginning start to learn language and nothing entering your brain. It's like this hard chickpeas. And little by little, the more you expose your brain, the more your brain starts to admit to receive all this new language. And at the end, it's a quite similar process. The more things you do, for instance, optimizing your shareable times, the better will be your immersion. Once again, the immersion, it's a complex process. It's also an art, like I said before about tandems. But with the shareable times, you can improve a lot your immersion. And you can help your brain little by little to get used to that. At the beginning, it's completely strange. Like in my case, for instance, the Russian language with the new alphabet, with new sounds. And little by little, it becomes familiar. It's a wonderful, wonderful process. So, we see that also the shareable times are crucial in the immersion process. But in fact, it's how we learn our mother tongue when we were a child. Okay, finally, let's put all that into action. This is part of the plan of the program, and this is the strategic plan. I mean, when you at the end say, okay, now I want to take a picture and first of all put my goals, and then I want to see how I get there. In this case, this is something that I propose you to say, okay, let's be practical. I want to use my shareable times. How can I do it? Okay, this is my proposal. First of all, just take 1 week and try to write down exactly what do you do every day, every single day. For instance, like we said before, I wake up at 8, I have half an hour for the personal grooming, and then for breakfast another half an hour, and then commuting half an hour, and so on and so forth. You just put into a paper, and I think it's very important to do it, to write it down. Exactly what do you do during the day, during this 24 hours. And if you can do it, not from Monday to Friday, but from Monday to Monday, the whole week, much better. This is the first task. Second, try to identify in every single hour which are shareable, possible, potential shareable times. You can say, okay, commuting, it's a potential shareable times. At the gym, or just going out with my dog, or just talking with some friends. Whatever you want, whatever you consider, it could be a potential shareable times. Identify all of them. Third, try to find 1 or 2 shareable activities that can match, that can be put into practice during these shareable times. For instance, you say, okay, I have 1 hour every single day to commute from my home to my working place. I want to improve my listening comprehension, for instance, in English. What I'm going to do exactly is to download. I want to spend my mobile data with my mobile phone. I want to I want to put into practice to listen during this hour, this contents, whatever you want. It's about literature, it's about if you are a beginner, even cartoons, whatever you want. And finally, take your time to turn that into a habit. You have identified the shareable times, you have identified what do you want to do in this time, what kind of shareable activities you want to put into practice. And finally, just try to be concentrated every day. You have to be patient with yourself because that takes time, maybe 1-2 months, just to do that, to turn that activity into a habit. Why it's so important to do that? Because at the end, a habit, it's a way, it's a resort that has our brain to do things automatically using less energy. And that's very important because at the end, you will finish doing something that you don't even have to think about it. And you will do it automatically without investing any extra resource like motivation, concentration. You just do it. And this is absolutely amazing because at the end, it will be just part of your life. You will have a new habit. So once again, I want to talk about, again, which are secondary effects, which are the benefits, the advantages of using shareable times. You will increase your motivation. You will learn much, much faster. You will really improve your immersion and you will live the language. That is the best way, mainly to improve your talking skills. And finally, time, it will be never, ever again an excuse to learn a language. But I have met many people who invested a lot of time, years, to learn a language. And finally, some of them got a very good level, C1, maybe C2. And finally, and that's absolutely normal. That happens everybody in some moments of our life, that we cannot continue dedicating no shareable time, special time to learn the language. And finally, maybe we stay 1, 2, 3, 5 years without putting into practice this language. This is really sad. It's possible to forget even your own mother tongue. If you spend years without speaking your mother tongue, you will forget it. I'm not saying that you will be unable to speak. No, you can, of course, it will be possible for you to recover that relatively fast. But it's a fact that the only way to speak fluently is if you do that almost every single day. If you stop for years, probably at the end, you will lose this fluency. I'm living that with the German language. Now I can't speak so fluent compared with the time that I was living and working in Berlin. Of course not. And mainly because my brain is small. So the more Russian I put in my brain, the more German just disappear. And at the end, I need to try to do both, to learn this new and difficult language, like the Russian language, but at the same time to keep my German. And of course, most of the time, I use shareable times to do it. So another great thing that you can get from this strategy is that even if you have no specific time to continue improving your language, at least you can have the time to practice it and even don't lose any level of this language. So I'm sorry, Simon, but I think that time will be never again an excuse or a problem to learn languages once again, thanks to the shareable times. And before ending, I would like to give you a couple of takes weeks. That's had nothing to do with shareable time. It's just some extra information that I want to share with you, and I think also will be interesting in the process of learning. In this case, the English language. And the first is I just want to talk about what's for me by far the best method to learn English. It's the Bowen method. When you decide to invest, if you want to invest some money in a method, today in internet we have a lot of different possibilities, and some of them, like this one, very good. It's also very important that you have a look first, which is the coming or the starting language. What I mean with that? Okay, learning English, it's learning English. But if this method, it's focused for people, like in this case, who has the Spanish language like the mother tongue, this is perfect. Because it's not the same to learn English if you speak Spanish or if you speak Russian. There are many subtle things that you need to know and that you can learn much better if your teacher of English speak your own language and knows, that person knows exactly which are the problems, the disadvantages that you may have, the different subtle things with the grammar, with the vocabulary, with idioms, and so on and so forth. So the good thing with this method, once again, it's that not only it's really good because of the teachers, because of the contents, because of the way they do the teachings, but also because all of them are bilingual. And for me, it's at the end a huge difference. It's just a piece of advice. I have nothing to do with them. But once again, for me, when I was studying, when I was improving some years ago English, I learned a lot. At that time, I remember that here in the island, they got a radio station, and when I was driving, all the time I was listening to them, and I learned a lot. Once again, using shareable times. Now they don't have this radio station, at least here in the island. I don't know why. I think there was a problem with the frequencies or something like that. In any case, that's not the point. But you can find them in internet. You can listen to the radio online through internet. So even in many smart TVs, you can also dial this channel, and it's really, really interesting and fun. You will learn a lot about this wonderful language. And finally, probably most of you are familiar with Anki. Anki, it's an app that you can use to build your own dictionary, and you can create different flashcards and put the translation, different words that you are learning, and also add some different kind of contents like audio, like pictures. You can enter in Google Image, you can find the picture for this word, and even you can record the pronunciation or whatever you want. Okay, but I learned that not too long ago, that many people have done this huge work before. Why don't you use it? And it's for free. If you enter, for instance, I look it up in the website of Anki, in Anki Web, about the English, and I found, for instance, it's the first title here, the 4,000 essential English words. It's someone who did this job, and you will have the most important words to learn in English with all this work done, with the translation, with the picture, with the audio. I'm not saying that it's in all of the words. I haven't checked it, of course not. But what I saw, it was like that in most of them. And it's extremely useful. It's very powerful. You already have this multimedia dictionary on your mobile phone. You can download this this packet of flashcards and use it. It's, once again, extremely powerful and for free. Okay, that's all. I really appreciate your attention. Thank you very much. It has been a real pleasure for me to share this specific strategy of my program of Más Idiomas, Más Vidas. And I hope to see you in other conferences, maybe in other workshops, maybe in the program, maybe in different podcasts or videos in YouTube. Have a nice day.